Good to be back. Good to be here. Good to be drawing again, honestly. I've taken a bit of time off to work on some different projects here and there. And I figured let's just jump in. So this here is the original undersketch, and figured I'd change it up just a teeny bit. Hope everyone out there is doing well. So I wasn't particularly happy with the let me check if I can hear what I'm saying. Yep, good. Gonna chuck on some music in the background. Just some stream beats by good old Harris Heller. So this is to commemorate the 30th anniversary of Earthworm Jim 2. And I should also add the caveat, it's the 30th anniversary of the MS-DOS port of the game. Like its console release was actually a year before, in 1995. So this is when it became available to PC users. And I gotta say, as a fan of this video game, going all the way back to the first Earthworm Jim game, I gotta say, it has aged surprisingly well. It's still funny and weird. I am currently not doing a sketch jam tonight. I will be taking requests at a later date, but this I'm just just drawing from references tonight. Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate that. So normally when I'm doing like a sketch jam, I do take requests, but most of the time I'm just drawing one or two things. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points. So the crayon has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this is the character of Princess What's Her Name. Yep. I don't think I quite nailed the exaggeration. Either way. So this is part of a bigger piece that I'm working on, where I'm incorporating all these sort of older video games. You know, millennial core video games into a skateboard design. So I'm working on a series of skateboards for an upcoming show. Just got back from the gym. Still a teeny bit on the cool down side. It's stayed unusually hot for this time of year. Like, we're just coming into May and it still feels like summer. Which I got no complaints about. Like, I honestly prefer it when it stays like hot. But it's weird when you look at like how the leaves change. So the sketch part is what I like to call like the cookie dough portion of the drawing. Actually going to bring this neck up just a little bit. I love her futuristic sort of ant woman costume. I think she's supposed to be like a termite. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Like every little bit of support helps. I'm still very much in the early stages. I try to go live as often as I can. Give me a minute. I am not a fan of this song. It's too scratchy. You ever hear like what you're expecting is going to be like a decent song and it just sounds like rubbish? Thank you very much. So May is definitely going to be like a new challenge. I'm looking forward to it. Get rid of that guiding sketch underneath. So I'm also working at getting my old Patreon page up and running. You ever sort of go on hiatus and you kind of just like abandon your own social media for like what you expect is only going to be like a couple of days, and then you come back 6 months later and people are kind of surprised that you haven't, you know, been reported as missing. I'll get these pupils to sort of follow the contour of these eyes. So yeah, I've been a fan of the Earthworm Jim series since the 90s. I remember the Saturday morning cartoon show. It was only short-lived, but it was pretty good. Like, these are all sort of early attempts at like capturing a video game in another medium, like a TV show or a movie. And I think the Earthworm Jim TV show, like the animated series, surprisingly well done. Like, I mean, it was cheaply animated, and you know, you can tell, like, rewatching a lot of those old cartoons as an adult, you can absolutely, like, you know, notice the inconsistencies, how weird some of the characters would move, like just kind of wonky and awkward looking. Like, I recently watched like an old clip of an episode of the Smurfs. If anyone's like, you know, a millennial, you might have remembered growing up watching the Smurfs as just like a Saturday morning cartoon. And yeah, that show was just, you know, just it was just terrible. It was like, it was somehow like boring and ugly at the same time. Like, when you're a little kid, like you don't particularly have huge expectations for your entertainment, because, you know, cartoons back then, you know, your parents would just plunk you in front of the television, and that's the wrong. She's actually very yellow, this character. I tend to go a little bit quiet when I trying to concentrate. Okay, interesting. I'll throw in some color. What's just happened? Hang on. Got a latency issue happening here. Apologies for the delay, guys. Just sort of rapidly alternating between platforms and trying to stay connected. Yo. Night. Doing my due diligence. So yeah, like I was mentioning earlier, I'll be bringing back the old Patreon. So if you'd like to see the rest of how this all sort of comes together, it'll be a Patreon exclusive, because there's a fair amount of like stuff I've also got to add to it, and it's a fair amount of faffing around. But rest assured, it'll all be worth it. As a tribute to Frank Frazetta. One of my all-time favorite artists. I love this shade of blue. There's something genuinely, like, it's hard for me to explain, but there's something genuinely comforting about this particular shade of blue. And I don't know what it is. I think it's because it's like a powdered navy, or and like it feels simultaneously old and new at the same time. I do frequently geek out on color theory. absolutely love. How just a few like dabs of a certain color can change our perception about pretty much anything. Like, color theory is amazing because there's something primal and unexplainable about it, but it's something we can all like appreciate. Hopefully I'm reaching my quota. I'm gonna make this like a 3-part series. Just to keep them kind of brief. It's also because I'm kind of I'm actually a lot more tired than I realize. Watching this thing, you know, this guy, he was talking about, you know, what women find attractive in men, and like, you know, he's chronically lonely, this poor bloke, and you know, he can't seem to figure out how people, particularly women, tick, and he's extremely frustrated. And you want to help him. I mean, I've been listening to him on and off for the last, you know, couple of weeks, and it's just that weird, like, you know, when you have a dog and you want him to go get the stick that you've thrown, or a ball or whatever, and he doesn't know where you've thrown it, right? He's seen you like take the stick or the ball, and he's watched your arm like throw it, and the ball has just landed out of his field of vision. and he looks back at you, and you're pointing to where it's landed because you can see it just fine. You know where it's gone, and you're pointing to where he should go to retrieve it, you know. And instead of looking for the ball or the stick and its location as to where it's gone, he's just looking at your hand. You know, he's just like, why is he, like, the dog will just stare at your hand, you know, pointing in the right direction, and the dog will just he'll be like tilting his head and not knowing what's going on. He's like, is this kind of, like, he'll look at you, you know, frantically pointing in the right direction as to where he needs to go, as if you're performing street magic for him. Yeah, like, I love how naive and trusting and, like, genuinely stupid dogs can be. I mean, some of them can be pretty smart though. And, like, I get the impression that this guy, like, he reads his comment section on his YouTube channel. Like, he's a YouTuber. And, you know, you can tell that he gets frustrated because, you know, he notices the patterns. He gets the same, like, bits of advice all the time. You know, he gets people who are just very well-meaning, trying to, you know, just say, look, mate, this would not be nearly as hard for you if you didn't have, like, a massive chip on your shoulder, and if your attitude wasn't, like, you know, completely, you know, bent out of shape and stuff. And he seems to think that's equivalent to a personal attack for him. And it's really sad because you go, look, mate, look to where the ball has been thrown rather than the finger pointing in the right direction and wondering what it means. But the thing is, like, some people are like that. They'll demand an explanation. They'll be, you know, they'll be almost ready to throw all kinds of, you know, I'll get very upset and everything like that. And it's like, oh, look, I'm just trying to help. And I get, in a way, a lot of like public attitudes and stuff. It's kind of like, yeah, you know, just talk about your problems rather than solve them. And that kind of thinking is fine if you want repeat customers to, you know, return once a week to your therapy place or whatever. But having problems that just sort of go unsolved is no good to anyone. Like, it really isn't. You know, at the end of the day, like, talking about a problem, totally fine. Not offering any solutions to the problem except to come back next week and talk some more about the problem is not a solution to the problem. Like, if you've got something that needs, like, you know, some kind of urgent attention, then yeah, I genuinely think that's what needs to be prioritized. But in the other sense of the word, like, you know, when they say things like, oh, you know, come back and talk about your problems once a week or whatever, yeah, that's great and all, but you know, realistically, you've got to be more along the lines of, hey, maybe just putting it out there. Oh, sorry, I'm still a bit sore from the gym. Oh man, ooh, that's better. That, like, for some people, and I think this is what, like, therapy culture unfortunately has also been responsible for in many respects, is in order to get people to help themselves, you kind of have to make them think that it was their idea, if that makes sense. Like, you know, you kind of like, you know, you're a therapist, you've trained, you want to help people, you know, but at the same time, you are dealing with another adult. You are dealing with another grown-up, sometimes older, sometimes younger than you are. Quite often they're older, actually. And you, as, you know, a person who may actually be nowhere near as much life experience as the person you're giving, you know, life advice to, in a way, you have to be like, okay, how do I give this person the requisite tools to solve their own problem without making it seem like I'm talking down to them? Because I genuinely believe that there are some, like, therapists out there who are, you know, genuinely, you know, good-hearted, dedicated, want to make a difference. You know, it's the ones that just want every person that they talk to become a repeat customer. Those are the ones that I think, you know, have the kind of like scarcity mindset that I think doesn't help anything or anyone. Because, you know, even a therapist who doesn't understand how their business is supposed to be run, you know, for instance, you're not. I get it that you're not supposed to like churn through people's problems. Like, you know, if they really wanted to, if they wanted to clear out their schedule so they, you know, were able to enjoy their holiday or whatever, like, they could just say, look, whatever bad habit you have, just knock it off. I'm gonna go to the Bahamas or wherever for the next 3 months. If you're feeling lonely or down about yourself, I would suggest diet, exercise, and avoiding sugar. Like, it's not nearly as like magical as some people make it out to be. I genuinely believe that. But yeah, this guy, man, he's one of those people that when you listen to him, you know, whine and complain and claim that it's not the things that he's complaining about that's the problem. You ever get that as well? Like, you know, they're so utterly like dedicated to the character that they want to play online that they just become, you know, fixated. On perpetuating whatever it is that they've chosen to be. And that's the other thing. Like you've got to be very mindful, because your mind and your body are very much interconnected. And how you think is how you are. And, you know, the words you say, you know, they have a direct effect on, you know, how you're perceived and everything like that. It's like the power of life and death is in the tongue. And that's very true. Like, what you say absolutely matters. You know, things that you might regard, you know, on the surface as a bit of a joke, that might not be the case at all, you know. Hey, how's it going? Hope you've enjoyed so far. I'm gonna keep this one just to like a simple hour-long run, because yeah, once I hit midnight, I want to sort of dial it back a little bit. So yeah, he's one of those guys that you want to help, but at the same time you got to be pretty careful, because you can tell that he's suffering a fair amount, and you don't want to set him off too much, because I get the impression that, like, you know, the oversensitivity, like the inability to sort of, you know, perceptively take criticism and whatnot, it's I think that gets to him a fair amount, you know. But I have a feeling that he will sort of come to know, like, I think he'll figure it out. Apparently, Fern Gully, The Last Rainforest, is getting a live-action remake. So that's another thing from the 90s that I wasn't expecting to be on my 2026 bingo card, but yeah, here we are. Does anyone remember Fern Gully? It's a fascinating movie. One of the few times when Fox Studios Animation was able to outcompete Disney in terms of quality. They had Robin Williams as Batty and Tim Curry as Hexus. And I remember watching that as a kid and being absolutely terrified of Hexus. Like, I mean, for some reason, like everything back then, you know, just sort of carried with it an element of doom and, you know, Cold War, nuclear terror and environmental catastrophe and stuff. And like everything about Hexus was like a propaganda video. Like even his like villain song Toxic Love, if you watch that again, like you'll see in just about every freeze frame there's like, you know, obvious like propaganda. And it's like, as a kid I didn't realize what I was watching at the time, but now that I'm grown up, like I'm just like, this is straight up just propaganda. Ooh. Oh man. Gotta have a bit of a stretch. So I will also be broadcasting. I'll be like doing a simulcast across like all the other like platforms as well, like the major ones. Like I'm not gonna use Kick because I'm just not familiar with it. But I am live right now on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and I will be including Facebook and TikTok. So yeah, I'll have all the live streams kind of running at once. So yeah, depending on where you are, you'll be able to catch me. on one or all of these platforms. I've also been re-watching My 600 Pound Life. Now that show is absolutely wild. And it's interesting to like revisit like an old show. Like these are just like episodes from a few years ago, back when the show was like really hitting its stride and stuff. And like just how many unflattering angles they filmed the I guess you could call them the patients from. It's like, okay, so here he is. He he just polished off like 10 pizzas in a single sitting, and now he's just chilling out on the couch. But like they film him or her or whoever they've got as like that, the latest subject. You know, they're just on a couch, or you know, in a recliner, or you know, just in a bed, just sitting there trying not to lose too much dignity. And they're being filmed like they're just these, like they're the pyramids of Giza or something like that, just these huge mounds of humanity just sitting there. And I watched this thing about genetics and stuff, and apparently like our ability to get really fat was an old like survival adaptation. Like we needed to, if we were facing scarcity, like a drought or a famine, or you know, something happening where like either the livestock that we were, you know, raising, or you know, even the animals that we that we would hunt as hunter-gatherers. Like, if something happened to them, like we would not only have to find other food sources, but we'd have to find such huge amounts of said food sources that we'd be able to just like store a bunch of calories on ourselves so we could survive like a particularly harsh winter, or like, you know, crop failure, or, you know, something that would be unexpected. And the thing is, like, we're so good now at like controlling our environment. Like, we are so adept at like bossing nature around that we're genuinely caught off guard when she bites us back. But the one problem with like having, you know, such access to plenty and, you know, ready calories while still maintaining this uncanny ability to just store fat on ourselves is our environments do not match our genetics. So we end up sort of constantly on the verge of, you know, getting ready to hunker down for an apocalyptic, like, long winter that will never come. But these days, for some reason, it feels more real, if that makes sense. Like, there may actually be more to it now than ever before. But I think that'll be a story for another day. Anyway, guys, I would like to thank all my new followers, my new subscribers, and yeah, I will be back. I'll be doing a part 2 and eventually a part 3, and obviously there'll be a version of this for Patreon as well, coming soon. So stay tuned for that. In the meantime, I will sign off. Big thank you to my new followers as well. Yeah, and I will be back soon.